on August 15th of last year, the Taliban took control of Afghanistan after 2 decades of U.S. occupation. Now, for many, the biggest concern was what that would mean for Afghan women and the rights that they had fought so hard to gain.
In the weeks following the takeover, our next guest interviewed Afghan women fighting for change both inside and outside the country. The result is a book of first-hand accounts called We Are Still Here, Afghan Women on Courage, Freedom, and the Fight to be Heard. Author and social impact entrepreneur Naheed Shahalimi joins us in studio today. Welcome, Naheed.
Thank you so much for having me. Welcome. So if people were watching the news this week, they may have realized that this past Monday marked that 1-year mark since the Taliban took over in Afghanistan. And at the time, the Taliban was actually saying, no, don't worry. We're not going to pull back rights for women and girls and education. But, of course, what we have seen is perhaps not exactly as they said. So what is the current state for Afghan women and girls?
To go back to your question, that was no surprise to me that they would not be doing that, what they said. Life looks very bleak for Afghan women today. It's like a prison, full-fledged prison in Afghanistan for Afghan women. Women cannot work in the fields that they want, only in the health sector and if you're a teacher. But since teenage girls cannot go to school, the schools are completely shut down as of 6th grade, then teachers don't have a job either. So women are also not allowed to travel without a chaperone. They're not allowed to be on the streets if they don't have a good reason to be on the streets. Literally, this is nothing short of gender apartheid. That's what I say when it comes to Afghan women. And to think that this group that we call terrorists before the 15th of August 2021 would change in any way, shape, or form is thinking very naive.
Mm-hmm. Well, sort of to build on that, there is a tendency in Western media when we're talking about the situation for women and girls in Afghanistan to adopt a victim narrative. So how do we talk about the progress that needs to happen while empowering the women in Afghanistan?
I love that you asked this question because it is so imperative that we allow the women themselves to speak in their own tongue. The narrative must be informed by Afghans, and particularly by Afghan women experts, like the 13, which is just a small group of hundreds that we have in this book. It is you got to be very cautious, because when you build narratives that are one-sided or not holistic from the point of view of the Afghan woman, you can build a dangerous narrative that doesn't only harm, but it really is dangerous in the long run. So when we have Afghan women being involved in this conversation, have their own voice, then these are the experts. So the media, the mainstream media and the UNs and the EUs, they get their information from women like this. These are the best in their field. And some of these women are the best in the region. But yet we tend to look at them in a way that we objectify Afghan women, which is very, very, very painful and very insulting, to be honest. We objectify Afghan women to the point that we exoticize them, and they become exotic. That means that they become this far, far thing that is distant from us. There's absolutely nothing exotic about us. Normalizing Afghan women is very, very, very important. We have to normalize these out of line narratives that have been building, and especially after the 15th of August, it has been building. Yeah. So it could lead to something that has nothing to do with the Afghan woman, because we don't hear them, but they are saying what they need.
Going back to education for a moment, Afghanistan is now literally the only country in the world that forbids education for girls after a certain age. And you say we have to be very careful to look at this as strategy on the part of the Taliban. What does that mean exactly?
Again, that was also not a surprise that they closed down the schools. That's exactly what they did when they ruled in 1996. This draconian ideology that does not have anything to do with any kind of Islam or any Islamic country, to be honest. What I was always cautious when I was really worried, and most of these women, all of the women that we work in this field are worried about, is that when you don't have a 12th grade graduate, you do not have a registration for the university the next year. And that is what is happening. So if we don't have 12th year that is graduating this year, we will not have anybody in the first year universities, state universities. And that means that within just a couple of years, you have no women in state universities. And that is why when I come back and I say, this is much bigger, this is so much bigger than Afghan women and Afghanistan. Because if you look at the US, the little girl today, the young girl today does not have the same right as her mother. And this was just a couple of months ago. Poland, same thing. We're rolling back. And this is in a bigger scope. These systems have to be looked at. We have to zoom out and look into what happens and why these policies are so parallel to each other and look at it in a different way. So we are in it all together in this. And every single woman, every single feminist in this world should be enraged that there's a girl, young girl in Afghanistan that cannot go to school just because she's a girl.
Well, you know, there is a line from your book that really struck me. You wrote that, quote, in this difficult moment, Afghan women don't need saviors. They need sisterhood and solidarity. So really quickly, what's the difference between interference and support? Like, what should solidarity look like?
Solidarity means that you listen to the women. See them, hear them, and listen to them. They tell you what they need. They don't, you know, when you go somewhere to help, that does not mean that you have to change them. Democracy and feminism, or elements of democracy and feminism, this here was not in the last 20 years. We had this way before a lot of the countries in the region. So I always come back to the wonderful hosts of The Social and this wonderful audience. Do you think that it was a given that we do what we do today as women? We fought for this. And it wasn't a long time ago. You know, Switzerland didn't even allow its women to vote until 1971. But Afghanistan did in 1965. So these are the realities that we really have to look into. Again, zoom out and look at where we're going. Sisterhood means that you listen to them and you help them so that they find their rights within the structures that they have built within their own countries, while you respect their identities. That's what solidarity means.
It's just the beginning of such an important conversation. Naheed, thank you so much for sharing this book with us and for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Her book is entitled We Are Still Here. You can find it everywhere now. Now, studio audience, you are fabulous. You're so lucky. You're going home with a copy today.
You know where you can get some more all-around great content? Our YouTube page. It's filled with all the laughs and thought-provoking chats you could ask for. So do yourself a favor, like and subscribe now.